Everybody, welcome to the New York Knicks podcast, episode 673. How you doing, Mark?
Good, good. I'm taking this from a John Macrae tweet. Jay, did you know in 2023 the Nets and the Hawks played, and there were 43 lead changes in that game, which is the most since the NBA started tracking that statistic in 1996. Did you know about that?
I did.
You did know. Did you see the tweet already?
Yeah.
Okay. So that game was won. The 43 lead changes, that game was won on a buzzer beater by Mikal Bridges,
hmm
which is crazy because last night the Knicks Blazers had 42 lead changes and the game was won on a buzzer beater by Mikal Bridges.
Same score, same final score.
Same final score also? I missed that part.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that is crazy.
So this week started off with everybody getting mad at Bridges because
Before you even go into that for a second,
Yeah.
last episode we were saying this is the point in the season where things start sucking because you're kind of like done with the regular season. You want it to end. You want the playoffs to happen. And this part of the season is kind of a slog to get through.
hmm
We said that, how this part of the season sucked. And what happened right after that, Jay?
started getting. Oh yeah,
We
the very next
Brunson
day,
got
Brunson got
injured.
injured, like the same night, I believe.
Yeah, we're like, this season sucks. And like NBA gods are like, we hear you, podcast. We're going to make it worse.
I think my final words were, "We just hope nobody gets injured throughout the rest of the season." And like 3 hours later, it's like, "Oh, no,
3
Brunson."
hours later, we're like, is Brunson going to play another game this season? Holy shit. So basically, he sprained his ankle. It's not as bad as it could be. He's out a minimum of like 2 weeks, right? But there's also rumors that he might not be back to the playoffs.
Before the playoffs.
Until the playoffs. Yeah,
Yeah.
what did I
Okay.
say?
It didn't come in clear. I thought you said for the playoffs, and I was like, don't say that.
He'll be back for the playoffs. Yeah, everyone thinks he'll be back for the Jalen Brunson could have his left leg amputated. He'd still put up 40 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's going to play no matter what happens. Just the regular season games might not be happening. My guess is he's back last 2 weeks of the season.
hmm
Yeah, so things have gotten worse.
So, right in time for a hard West Coast road trip.
Awesome. And like, it sucks to go on the West Coast for them. Sucks for us because all the games like end after midnight. It sucks all around. Thank you, NBA gods, for keep making things worse.
Oh, the game is going to start at 10 p.m. and it's going to go into overtime. That's wonderful.
It's wonderful. So the other big Jay was about to go into the big news of the week. Jay, besides Jalen Brunson, that Jalen Brunson's news is really last week. So what's the big news of the week, Jay?
Yeah, it's the problem with doing the show once a week now. It's like, I don't know why, but every time we upload an episode, something happens immediately afterwards. So, the Minutes Police had a big win this week with Bridges talking to the media about Tibbs's minutes and saying that So, at first it was said that he talked to Tibbs about having the starters play less minutes, and then Tibbs said in an interview that like they never discussed it. So, I don't know if he talked to Tibbs through the media.
I spoke to Tibbs and I told him we're playing too many minutes. Hey Tibbs, Mikhail said he's a liar. Cool. You know, I don't even know who Mikal Bridges is. Okay, Tibbs.
So the Portland game, it was right before the Portland game that news came out, and so Bridges played 41 minutes.
Of course.
Well, I mean, it was an overtime game, but it's just funny
It was
that
an overtime game.
he was talking about like starters playing over 40 minutes, and then he played 41 minutes. I thought that was funny.
Would it be great if Tibbs is a big FU, just didn't take the starters out all game?
48 minutes across the board.
48 for everyone plus 5 for the overtime. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I mean, people were mad at Bridges for some reason, even though most people were saying that Tibbs plays players too many minutes, but I guess the player's not allowed to say that. So now he's...
Well, it's not that he's not allowed to say that. It's that he's speaking through the media. You kind of like... Everyone's mad. First of all, if Jalen Brunson said this, they'd be like, oh, that's cool. If Jalen's saying it, we get it. But Mikal Bridges has been a bit on the outs with Knicks fans because the Knicks traded 5 first-round picks for him. Knicks fans do not... And he's not lived up. He's been good, but
Hmm.
not as awesome as people would like. And that's getting people pissed off. They want Bridges to be like this piece to put them over the edge. He's been good. He's not been awesome. He's not been a tremendous upgrade over, say, Dante DiVincenzo. Anyway, because him in particular saying it and him being kind of the new guy made people extra frustrated.
He's also been like a third option where he was a second option in Phoenix and a first option in Brooklyn. So it is a bit of an adjustment too.
He was he even the second. I guess yeah. I guess he was. He was the second option in Phoenix.
Yeah, Booker was the first option.
Yeah, no, I was trying to think if there was a third, like someone else above him in terms of the options.
I don't think so. Chris Paul is more of a facilitator at that point.
Right. I was thinking of Durant, but I forgot that he was traded for Durant.
Yeah.
Well, first, I guess, what do you think about a guy speaking to the reporters? Like we keep this stuff in the locker room. What do you think about a guy kind of speaking about this to a reporter?
Not great. I mean, I thought it was fine because the initial report said he talked to Tibbs about it. But then now that Tibbs said he didn't, I'm like, yeah, that's not a great look to just go to the media. Like, go to the coach. I'm not sure.
The great Phil Jackson used to do everything through the media.
Yeah.
Not everything, but he used to do a lot of things in the media.
But he also pissed off a lot of people doing that.
Well, he also won a ton of titles. Forget his time with the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like he was also a great coach. He won a bunch of titles with the Bulls, a bunch of titles with the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
He would communicate with Kobe through the media. Like, so I mean, I'm just saying, there's an all time great Hall of Fame coach who used to do this, and now obviously they're different. Like, is it always wrong to go through the media?
I'm saying it's not the best look, but I'm not like furious at him. Like people were saying like trade him, and this is like the end of the either Tibbs or him has got to go. And I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Also, he had an efficient 33 points and hit the game winner last night. So let's focus on that.
He even went to the free throw line. He even shot 6 free throws, which might be his what might have been his season total up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
He did everything right last night. So like, if you're gonna like quiet the fans down, this would be the ultimate way to quiet the fans down.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think if it came down to it and there was a big fight or a big like chasm between Bridges and Tibbs, who goes?
I think, well, probably Tibbs.
Yeah, I don't think it's close here because I think it's easier to change the coach than the player. They traded 5 first-round picks for Bridges, so they're probably like it's too much of like they're all in on him. They're not going to want to to give up on him so fast.
You're also hypothetically trading a good friend of the captain of the team, which probably wouldn't go great either.
Right, and also like if it's not working to a certain extent, like you might just say, "Hey, maybe we need at that point maybe we need a new coach who's like maybe Tibbs has lost the locker room."
Right, right.
And we have examples of teams, obviously, that have taken to the next level with a new coach. Like in Cleveland, they seem to have, like, getting a new coach seems to have, like, Atkinson seems to have, it seems that, I don't know how Cleveland went from, like, being, like, okay last year to goddamn awesome this year, but Kenny Atkinson is doing everything right there. And it gets people in New York dreaming of, like, can we find our Kenny Atkinson if we take this team to the next level?
Or Steve Kerr in
Yes, another great example. You could find your Nick Nurse, though he had Kawhi, and also Nick Nurse seems to be terrible elsewhere.
JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, a lot of coaches sometimes.
Oh, sorry, Chauncey Billups, according to Shaq.
Okay. Anyway, sometimes changing coaches can make a big difference. I'm not saying the Knicks should do that, but I'm just saying I wouldn't want to be on Tibbs' corner here if there was an actual real issue.
Right.
Do you think that Mikhail said he talked to Tibbs? It didn't sound like he like maybe kind of like it just sounded like he was like I spoke to Tibbs about this, and Tibbs said the opposite. Who is being honest?
I think maybe Bridges. I don't think Tibbs wants to even acknowledge the minutes thing.
I think you're right. I don't think Tibbs wants to acknowledge the minutes thing with the media. Like if he says we talked about it, then there's a discussion from there with the media. Whereas if he just denies we talked about it, he doesn't have to discuss with the media. He can take this back to the locker room.
Well, James Dolan on the Roommates podcast said that Tibbs doesn't want to talk about minutes either.
By the way, everyone should be listening to the Roommates podcast anyway. But they had James Dolan on. I have yet to listen. Jay has listened. I just got some outtakes. Holy shit! How was the episode? It had to be amazing. Joe.
I listened to half the episode. It's all right. I listened to about 40 minutes. There's about 16 minutes of commercials. They did like a long intro without letting Dolan even talk. But there was some interesting stuff from Dolan like once it got going.
Yeah, I think there's and I think this has been on Twitter today. That they were going to trade for Vince Carter, but the doctors said like his Achilles is 90% gone, and like it's about to go, and then 7 years later he was totally the next 7 years had no Achilles issues whatsoever.
Right.
Which is like a kind of funny, like he kind of listened to his doctors, and the Knicks would have had Vince in maybe more of his prime, but whatever. That was I think the biggest one.
Yeah.
He also talked about, I guess, like when they asked him if he, and again I just saw this on Twitter, when he hired Leon Rose, was he worried about taking the risk? And he had a funny response. Basically, he was like, "I used to work in sales, and I learned in sales when you're on the bottom, when you're on the floor, you really can't fall off." So I thought it was a funny line.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we both think Tibbs is not being straightforward about this, right?
Yeah.
And what did Dolan say? So I didn't catch on the podcast. What did he say about it? He just said Tibbs doesn't talk about minutes?
Yeah, he said whenever I or anybody like even mentions minutes, he just doesn't want to talk about it. He brushes it off. I mean, it was a really quick side note, but that was basically it.
I mean, I also feel like, to a certain extent, like you hire Tibbs to coach, you don't interfere with him coaching.
Yeah.
You may not the players can voice their opinion, but like the owner shouldn't, or no one above him should voice their opinion about what the coach is doing.
Right.
Or else don't hire the guy. Like it's like you hire like a head chef for your restaurant, you don't mess with how he runs his kitchen staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I don't know why I'm using that. Maybe the worst. I don't know why I use that analogy. I have no idea. Yeah. So are we getting worried about the minutes?
A little bit. I mean, I don't think it's as necessary as like.
I guess the three issues are injuries, which really haven't been like. I would not say his minutes have led to anyone being injured. Like Brunson freak injury.
Yeah, Brunson was a total freak injury. The thing is, like, OG and Towns have a history of injuries, so I would rather them play a couple less minutes. Just
right.
There's 17 games left. Let's the Knicks are up 5 to Milwaukee, which I don't even really think it matters if the Knicks fall to 4th. They're gonna have to play Boston and Cleveland. It's just like, which order do you want to play them in?
Right. I think I guess the issues here, I guess the actual guys missing games hasn't been a big problem. Knicks have actually been one of the healthiest teams in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
The second and third issues are, and equally important basically, are like if your guys are playing 40, let's say Bridges play 41 minutes, he's probably going to give you a better performance in 36 minutes and 41 minutes. Guys are playing tired, missing shots. Do you want your guys playing tired all the time? And then if you're playing guys all like 40 minutes, your bench is going to be underdeveloped, and it's really hard to win the NBA if you don't have some help from your bench.
Yeah.
And you can't develop your bench if these guys aren't playing.
All good points. Agreed. Yeah.
So, I guess like with Brunson out, there's more room for the bench, I guess, to play going forward. The Knicks bench also was pretty mediocre, which is just a general issue.
It is, but there needs to be more like ride the hot hand. Like Payne is very streaky, but if he's Payne had what was it? He scored like a dozen points in like 5 minutes in the second quarter, and then he didn't go back into like the fourth quarters.
This isn't the Portland game.
No, it was like a month ago. But Payne was like red hot.
Payne, he did something in a game a while back. It might have been a couple of years ago.
I'm just using that as an example. If a bench player is like playing really well, like go with it.
I totally agree with that. But it's really not like, okay, once you get Brunson back, McBride goes back to the bench, And yes, McBride could get hot. Mitchell Robinson needs to play more, but that's more about him just acclimating, getting back to the
Yeah,
NBA
his
shape.
minutes will ramp up.
Achua's minutes have to go down. Achua's minutes, like Achua and what Mitchell Robinson do on the court, Achua's more of like they occupy the same kind of role, and I'd rather just have Robinson on the court.
Well, Achua's minutes
Um,
are
yeah, they're going down.
they're getting
Like, it
close
just
to
doesn't.
zero. Yeah.
Right, he doesn't do anything else. Like I mean, Mitchell Robinson's obviously a better defender. Achua can't really shoot the three. He doesn't extend the floor. He's a little bit more versatile on offense, but like also Mitchell Robinson gives you offensive rebounding and gives you a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Campaign and Shamit, I guess they get hot sometimes, but like I don't know, they're not exactly.
Shaman's
They're not.
defense has looked a little better lately, though.
It has, but they're not giving you the same things that like they're not giving you the same things that the guys are getting on Boston or Cleveland their bench. They're
No,
getting real help on their bench. The Knicks are not getting that kind of help.
they're not. But like they're not at the point where the Knicks are just blowing leads if they're in. Like they're playing good enough defense where you can. Yeah, the offense lacks, but it. I would rather just
What
save some legs. Play everybody
what
40 something minutes when the Knicks hit the playoffs. Don't do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I agree with you. Maybe cut everyone off. Try to play everyone no more than 35, and just and force yourself to live with the bench playing more and see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah.
By the way, what is PJ Tucker here to do?
He is like all NBA level cheerleader. He's waving that towel, he's screaming, he's yelling. I think that's it. I think they wanted some leadership.
I guess.
Or either that or it's just like injury insurance.
I mean, they did. In fairness, they signed PJ Tucker and they followed it up by beating the crap out of what was it? The Sacramento.
Sacramento. Well, I mean, they are 2-0 in the PJ Tucker era.
Yeah, and my guess is like they're like PJ Tucker, your help us with your leadership, and he's like, try hitting a lot of 3-point shots, and they're like, fine, we will, and they shot 55% from three that night.
Yeah, he's
so
like,
I guess Tucker's a genius.
Hart, you know how you're shooting like 32%? Like, why don't you try shooting like 66%? And Hart was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to try that. And it worked.
Since PJ Tucker's got here, Josh Hart is shooting 50% from 3-point land.
Yeah.
So obviously Tucker has helped Josh Hart with his form.
Mm-hmm.
He's the factor. He's like Bridges. What if you hit a 3-point shot to win the game here? Have you tried that? And don't worry, you can totally travel on that play. They'll never call it.
He is just an endless source of great advice. So
Did you
sign.
watch out? Obviously you saw the game and you saw that play. Did you watch that play again where you saw how blatant the Mikal Bridges travel was?
I don't know. Like,
what do you mean you don't know? He took like 5 steps without dribbling.
NBA rules is you get a gather step, so you can actually catch it and get a free step. So there was that, and then the normal 2 steps. In high school, high school, that's a travel. In the NBA, I don't think it is.
He earned airline miles for that crap. Like he got the ball. He took like 5 steps before he started dribbling. Like,
gather steps.
What was gather? He dribbled he took like 5 dribbles and then shot the ball. He probably traveled at that point also.
He was gathering. Like, he was gathering.
He was gathering for the purpose of dribbling?
Well, you got to gather before you dribble.
I couldn't believe how blatant that's like, because when you're watching it the first time, you're like, you don't notice it because you're noticing like him taking the shot and everything else. But then you watch it again, you're like, oh wow, that's a lot of steps. That's I don't know why the ref wouldn't call that shit.
Sorry, I just got an alert on my phone that De'Aaron Fox is having season-ending pinky surgery.
I mean that sucks, but I mean, could they make a better name for the pinky?
Yeah, I know, but like it's fantasy playoffs, and like Fox just went down, and Giddey, Derek White, and Aaron Gordon. It's like clockwork. Like as soon as the playoffs start, my team just gets shut down.
How is your fantasy team doing this week? This is Jay's in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. It's more important than even our show. What's the score, Jay?
I'm up 7-2 right now, but now that
shut the fuck up.
Well, now that
Go on.
half my team's not going to play, I'm finished. I
Okay,
mean,
today's Wednesday.
yeah,
Can you pick up? You can pick. It's not like the NBA where you can't pick up guys.
I used all my pickups already.
Oh, well,
I mean, I had to use pickups for Gordon, Gideon, White, so like I'm out of them for Fox now.
ah,
So yeah, just
well,
screwed, just absolutely
that's
screwed.
great. That's great. That's sorry. Sorry that the basketball gods are treating your team like they're the 76ers.
Syria or the Mavs.
Or actually the Spurs right now. Wemby and De'Aaron Fox out for the season.
Yeah, I turned down a Curry for Fox straight up trade, which
Well,
might have been the difference in this season right now.
I guess you should have made that trade.
Yeah,
Well, um, by the way, Quentin Grimes, flamethrower now.
he has more 30-point games than Paul George this season.
Paul George sounds like he might be done for the season. Also, like he's
Yeah,
dealing with his injury. Um, who knew to start the year they had a big free three of Embiid? By the way, is Maxey healthy? Is he playing?
no, he didn't play last game.
Yeah.
He's had a sore back. He played really bad a couple games, and I think they just shut him down.
Okay. I mean, like they had Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, and in the end, Quentin Grimes. And the only reason you know why Quentin Grimes is good, by the way,
Because he's
you know,
got more playing time.
well, that those are there are other reasons he's good, but the ultimate reason why he's playing out of his mind is because Nico Harrison traded him off the Mavericks. And
That's
everything
true.
Nico Harrison touches, he just destroys everything. Like if you're a Maverick fan, you're like, I'm gonna murder him. I think I can get away with it also.
Seriously, imagine just seeing like the Brunson and then Luca, and now Grimes is going off. It's like, come on.
I mean, like everything. There's nothing you've touched that is not turned to shit on the Mavericks or gold elsewhere.
Yep.
We did have one question, but it's really just the topic at hand, the minutes thing. So my guess here with the Mikal Bridges, this is from Paul asked. Maybe Josh disagrees, or maybe I just what he says publicly. Um, my guess here is that Mikal Bridges said something to the guys talk in the locker room. Mikal Bridges said, "I'm the guy who plays every game. I feel like maybe I could talk to Tibbs because I don't miss anything." And Tibbs was not receptive, and so Bridges felt like the only thing I could do now is to mention this to the media because that's the only way I can put pressure on Tibbs to not play me up, to reduce the minutes.
I think that's a reasonable scenario. He's also friends with Payne, and he might just, maybe Payne was saying like, "Hey, it'd be cool if I had played more than 12 minutes a game." So maybe he was doing his buddy a solid too.
I saw it on TikTok. A stand up comedy from Adam Sandler when he was first doing stand up, or maybe much earlier on in his career.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna do an impression. He's like, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in one game.
Hmm.
Well, here's an impression of I can't do it as good as him, but here's an impression of his teammates that day. Hey, Wilt, I'm open. Can you pass me the ball? My parents are here watching the game. Could you please just pass me the ball?
I would love to see. It's too bad there's not really any footage of that game because I want to see if was he really that good or like was the competition that bad. It's so hard to tell.
Yeah. Then he's like, also here's an impression of the opposing team's coach. Hey, is anyone covering Wilt? um, the yeah, I feel like if Bridges spoke to Tibbs and Tibbs did not relent in the minutes, this was the only he kind of forced Bridges' hands to talk to the media. Something is off with this team. They're they shouldn't also be going to freaking overtime against the Trailblazers, even without a Brunson. Can we agree this seems a bit off?
It's a little off, but the Trailblazers have been playing good ball for a while now. They got off to a super slow start, but in the past 20-25 games, they've been playing good. So it's not like they went into overtime against the Hornets.
No, but they've also had a lot of very close games. They're not having a lot of the Sacramento game where they beat the crap out of Sacramento, which is wonderful. But they have not had a lot of games like that.
No,
They also
no.
lost to the Clippers and the Lakers, and you're allowed to have a loss, but they were both kind of bad losses.
Yeah, I mean they did have what 3 overtime games in the last 5 or something.
Yeah, and you're fine to have off nights, but something seems a little bit it's something that's seen a little bit off with the Knicks as of late. And I think guys are just so part of the talk basically has been like, what's wrong with the Knicks lineup, or like, are the Knicks putting out the right lineups? One thing I've seen over and over again is that if Brunson's out, well, Tyler Kolek, he's Brunson light. We should be playing Tyler Kolek in his role, which is monumentally stupid. There's no way Kolek is ready for this role. So like that take is terrible. Um, but the take which we kind of talked about last show is, are the Knicks running the right lineups out there?
Um, maybe not. Maybe not. I will say, yeah, the Kolek thing is the same thing we hear every year. It's the same people that are saying play Frank, play Cam, play Knox. Kolek's not ready. He's not the. It's not like if Kolek played 15 minutes, the Knicks were going to be stomping teams by 20 points a game. Let's stop with all that. Like,
I like the idea of Kolek. He's looked okay at times. He's not shown any real flashes where you're like, oh, we really found something here. He looks okay. Like, I feel like he's a piece
yeah,
to be developed.
he might be great in a year or two. He's not ready now. Somebody was pointing out that there was a guy drafted like 5 spots past him who's getting minutes. I think on OKC, but like it's different players in different scenarios. You can't really be like, oh, he was drafted 52nd, he was drafted 57th. Like, he should be getting more minutes. It's just, that's not the way it works.
I'm fine with Kolek getting some minutes and like it's all for it, but to act like he's going to really contribute is kind of ridiculous. Payne and Shamit are much more prepared to be contributing on this team.
Yes, he's right now he's a downgrade from Payne, so that's why he doesn't play.
In theory, they have practices also, so
Mm-hmm.
like they're watching Kolek. They're not they're not impressed enough yet.
There's a reason McBride got more minutes and McBride got his contract extended. They saw him in practice and they were impressed with what they saw, so they started increasing his minutes. It's not like one day they're just like, let's try playing McBride 20 minutes tonight and see what happens. Like, they saw him in practice and knew that he can do it.
He's even his performance in the G League. He's had some good games, but he's been also very. It's been very mixed. It's not like he's dominating the G League. So like, anyway, so the questions really are like Bridges. You said before, he's being used kind of like a third option when Brunson and Towns are there. Does Brunson need more? Sorry, does Bridges need more time on the bench, or like kind of like should he be like the lead guy when Brunson's off the floor?
I don't know if he's more of a playmaker. He does have chemistry with Payne, so I think he should definitely him Payne and I don't know, maybe Hart. Like, I mix and match. I feel like Tibbs is
Would it be
he'll put in multiple bench players at once. He doesn't stagger one at a time.
He does a bit of staggering though, like so. Like the first quarter will go at some point in the first quarter. McBride will come on, and Payne will come on.
Yeah.
What if we can reverse this a bit? Maybe you start McBride, start Bridges on the bench, so Bridges comes in, McBride leaves, and then Bridges can kind of come in. I don't know. This formula doesn't seem to be
Can
working
you
perfectly.
imagine social media if after Bridges made it a complaint to the media, then he
They
doesn't
bench
start
him, yeah.
anymore? Like, forget it.
Some things. So there's some things that are off here. Like Josh Hart, who's just. In the era of getting whatchamacallit, ever since PJ Tucker got here, obviously he's lights out from three. But if Josh Hart isn't shooting threes, the other issue is Josh Hart's not shooting threes. The other team's gonna have the center guard Josh Hart. They're not gonna take him seriously from like. There's no 5 out. He's not
Hmm.
extending the floor. Maybe Hart should be coming off the bench. I don't know. Mitch should be starting. You got to get Mitch back to 30 minutes a game, and he's got to start next day.
I think he will eventually. They're still ramping his minutes up. It's a slow ramp. He's still capped out at 16 to 20 minutes.
Okay, what if you do that? You have Mitch and Towns 4 or 5,
Hmm.
and then you move OG to the 3 and Bridges to the 2, or McBride to the 2, and you have Bridges and Josh Hart come off the bench. Is that completely batshit crazy?
No, no, not at all.
Because I feel like then you can have those two guys come in the game and add some energy. I know this is like you're changing the starting lineup, which is set in stone, and God forbid. But if you had Brunson, this is when Brunson's back and forth. Brunson, McBride starting. And I know McBride's smaller, but he's got long arms. He's a good defender. He can defend up. And then you bring in Bridges and bring in Josh Hart. You add some energy. Both guys everyone's minutes are still going to be there.
I also think if you're getting tired and then you see Bridges and Hart like fresh coming off the bench, you're kind of like, oh shit, like. For some reason, it's the same players, but it makes the team seem a lot deeper.
Yeah, it is. And like even though the guys are all going to play similar minutes, it's not like Bridges' minutes are going to change dramatically.
Right.
I mean, the other thing is like I feel like this team, I obviously you have to shoot threes in the rhythm of the game and so forth. You got to get close to 43s a game.
Do you know
it just doesn't
Boston
work for the most part?
Boston set a record. They shot 36 in a half.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, did they shoot anything else?
It's boring basketball, but they fucking win games. And we're trying to get wins, not like, I'm entertained if the Knicks win.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Knicks, it's really hard to win the NBA if you don't shoot a lot of threes and you don't make them at a decent clip. Yeah. You don't have to make them at 40%. You can make them at 36%, but you got to shoot more threes.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way the game is now.
Yeah, I don't know how you cure that or fix that. I mean, we've talked about how you like things you could do, but like, I don't like the Knicks. What do you got? We have 17 games left.
Mm-hmm.
You should use these games not just about winning, but trying to work on some stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Unless you think all of those games against Boston and Cleveland were flukes, you should probably tweak a few things and see how it shakes out. And you're playing Boston and Cleveland later this season, so
great.
You'll have time to check those things out. I mean the final week and a half of the season, there's 2 Clevelands and a Boston.
Hopefully the Knicks will kind of be set in their seed and not try to kill themselves to win those games.
They're pretty much set in their seed now.
I mean, they're not quite. I mean, I guess they're not going to fall to the 5th, basically, at this point. I mean, unlikely. So currently,
I mean, they're 5 up on Milwaukee. And after the Golden State game on Saturday, they got Miami, San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington, Dallas. Like, even without Brunson, that should be 5 in a row.
They're 5.5 up on the Bucks, the Pacers, and Detroit. You'd hope they don't fall, and you're probably not in your 3.5 back of 4.5 back of Boston. You're probably not changing positions at this point.
Right. Yeah, I think they're locked in. And like I said, even if they lose the Golden State, they should win the next 5. And if they go 5-1 over the next 6, they're definitely locked into that 3rd seed.
Also, let's say you fall apart. You completely fall apart with these last few games, these last 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
You currently are up by 10.5 games on Atlanta,
mm-hmm.
which means Atlanta's number 7. You're not falling out of you're not going to the playing game.
Right.
So worst case scenario, you're the 6th seed and you play Milwaukee or the Pacers on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Not awesome, but you're gonna have to beat these teams anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally you play Detroit first round. Detroit's not that much more of a pushover than like the Pacers. They're all going to be tough matchups. Detroit's going to be harder than we'd like.
Although Cade is on my fantasy team, so there is a chance he gets shut down for the season next week.
Jay's like, well, I mean, I'm going to win tonight. I mean, like, it's the last game of the week. As long as Cade doesn't get 20 turnovers, and Detroit wouldn't even play him to get 20 turnovers. That's almost impossible.
Yeah. I picked up Wiggins on OKC, and he went 0 for 9 last night.
He's had some good games, too.
I know.
Yeah, so I feel like the Lakers, like, Tibbs does, I mean, they have a forced experiment right now. The forced experiment is to see, they're basically kind of forced to give Bridges a bigger role in the offense. Everything's forced basically by Brunson being out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in some ways, I feel like this is beneficial to the Knicks. Just in the sense of, like, the benefits are Brunson hopefully will be more well-rested for the playoffs
mm-hmm.
and healthy. And also, we get to see like maybe Tibbs will trust Bridges more. I'm sorry, McBride more if he's doing more in a bigger role.
Yeah, everybody. Different looks. Just learning what to do when Brunson sits on the bench. Like, not as long as Brunson's 100% healthy for the playoffs, it's not a bad thing that he's just not wearing his body down even more right now.
Jay, what do you think about the fact that the Timberwolves, since Randall came back, are unbeatable?
So in the last 11 games that Randall's played, they're 11-0.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty 11-0 is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to win more games than 11 than they've done.
Yeah.
Uh, is Towns outplaying? Is this Knicks team so much better than last year's team?
I mean, the record's a good amount better, I guess.
I guess it's a
I
lot
don't know.
closer than I'd like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Towns. How's Towns been lately? Do you think he's been awesome? I know he's dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, I think he's playing hurt. He's been off for like almost 2 weeks now.
So can Towns work on a move that doesn't involve him going to take an awkward shot, like an awkward drive to the rim? Does he always have to do that?
So Sam writes, "Hey guys, do you think Cat should work out with Al Horford this summer to learn how to play defense? Because Cat is a human traffic cone trying to protect the paint. Also, OG should ask Jamal Crawford for some dribbling lessons as well."
Those are all brilliant ideas. I thought he was going to say Al Horford to learn about post moves, but that's even funnier.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
I thought that's where it was going. That's why I jumped in there right there. But I just saw it. Do you think Cat? And I was like, all right, this should be perfect.
Cat needs to like. It seems like his offense for the most part is either I shoot a three or I drive to the basket. But he's not like he's faster than a lot of big men, but he's not so fast that he gets by. He doesn't blow by everyone. I feel like he can he shoot some mid-range shots? Can he get some moves around the basket? He's so unbelievably talented. There should be more in his bag.
hmm Yeah, I agree. He's also taking way less threes than he usually does, which
Yeah,
if he's hitting them, he should be taking more of them.
yeah. Like I just feel like every time he drives to the basket, I'm like, I don't know. If you're these layups like aren't going in a lot of the time because you're taking weird shots. Like you're so big. Can you figure out some other way to not like just throw the ball at the basket when
Well,
you're running to the
well, I
basket?
also think if his knees are hurting, taking a lot more threes would be a lot less wear and tear on that.
You're an all-time great shooting big, self-proclaimed the greatest ever. Can we do some pick and pops?
Yeah.
Is there more we can do with his offense? Um, yeah, I don't know. And yes, learning to play some defense. I I don't think the Knicks can win with Towns at center.
I don't think. I mean, I don't think he's going to be center in a couple weeks. I think once Mitch gets
Okay.
ramped up, I don't think I don't think he's the starting center.
I think Minnesota figured that out that he's not a starting center. He's better next to a defensive center. I hope that Tibbs realizes that.
That might be why they signed Tucker. Mitch moves into the starting lineup. Tucker's Mitch's backup.
I guess, but I thought Precious was the Mitch's backup.
Apparently, Precious isn't impressing Tibbs as much lately.
Okay. I mean, is Tucker at age? I mean, Tucker obviously like has like a nice history and he's played well in the playoffs before, but he's 40. Is he really going to give you a lot in the playoffs?
I think I'd rather Precious as the backup to Mitch.
Yeah, I think I feel like and maybe the concern is that we just need another big in case like someone else gets injured.
I think that's the concern. Because if Towns or Mitch gets injured, then you're just playing undersized with Precious as center and with no backup. So
Yeah, I mean,
Huck
to be
Porty's
fair,
Huck Porty's injury really like threw a wrench.
right. I mean, to be fair, also you could have just signed someone like Tucker's not really a center either, so or not even close to a center. So
He's one of those like who was that guy in Houston that was 6'6" and he played center for like 5 straight years.
I thought you were going to use the example of like Draymond Green, just like an undersized center, but not obviously not nearly as good, but like a guy who can like man the position well
Yeah.
because he's tough. But yes, the guy. Who are you thinking of in Houston?
It was like um
Could have said Ben Wallace, undersized but all-time defensive player.
no, it was a while ago. I don't know.
Okay.
So somebody
All
had
right.
read somebody real GM said rank the greatest undersized centers, and it's like Hakeem Olajuwon, like Alonzo Mourning.
Undersized?
Yeah, Alonzo Mourning, Ben Wallace. I'm like, no, those are actual sized centers.
And Ben Wallace was like 6'9", I think. He was a little bit undersized. How tall was Ben Wallace?
I don't know,
Because
but like
he
Hakeem
went lower in the
Olajuwon was
draft.
not undersized.
Yes. Well, Kim Olajuwon, wasn't he 7 foot?
Uh, yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
mean,
Ben Wallace
people
was 6'9".
people
I
in
mean,
mine
which is
are really
undersized for
big.
the for a center. Akeem was definitely 7 foot. I'm looking this up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of not smart people on the internet. He's got to
Uh,
be.
I'm just curious. Am I wrong about his height? He's 7 foot. Yeah. Like, name an undersized center. Shaq.
Dwight Howard.
Minute. A minute bowl. Uh, okay. So Tibbs, is he going to experiment from here, or just going to try to win games?
He's going to try and win games, but that might result in experimenting just because they're shorthanded.
Okay. Are we going to see anything from Marjan Bucamp or Anton Watson or PJ Tucker? Are we going to see anything from these guys?
Probably not. I thought
Um,
about it, and I don't think Tucker's going to be the backup to Mitch. I think it'll still be
I,
Precious.
I think it's just a little precious. Tucker's, I think, how tall is Tucker? Like 6'7"? I mean, I
Uh,
know he's filled this role before, but like, he's 39, not 40. He's 6'5". Like,
mhm.
it's just like, he's a very tough player, but at 39, he's just not going to give you much anymore.
Chuck Hayes.
Oh, okay.
He,
How long? That was a long while ago, right?
that was he played center from 2009 through 2016 at 6'6".
Okay, you quite the random reference.
Yeah,
PJ Tucker could shoot threes. He's not really a stretch the floor kind of guy. He's hit some big threes in the playoffs.
yeah.
Um, I'm happy. So the Knicks supposedly signed one more guy, right?
They could sign one more guy with like 5 or 6 days, maybe a week left in the season. So that might be T.J. Warren in the final week of the season.
TJ Warren time. Come on, TJ Warren.
So I mean, seems like a long way off. It's only like it's 1 month.
I know we're gonna get nothing from TJ Warren, but I do remember the COVID playoffs, the bubble playoffs. TJ Warren was like unbelievably good.
Yeah, it was
So
scoring over 20 a game.
he had like some huge games there during that.
Yeah,
But obviously that was 5 years ago. So
just need 10 good minutes off the bench.
we just need a guy on the bench who can give us a burst of points. We need
Yeah,
Jamal Crawford. That would be really helpful.
yeah.
Can Jamal Crawford, in between announcing, do some backup minutes?
I mean, Saturday is his last game doing MSG, so
God damn it! By the way, I like him on the game. I think he's great on the broadcast. I wish they would like he should be the heir um to
yeah,
Clark.
it's like we were talking about last week. Like they should have an actual basketball player so he can tell stories and give like insight. Guys who've played can give better insight. They're looking for different things on the court than people who've never played the game before.
Right. If you're the play-by-play guy, I don't care as much. But if you're the color guy, that sounds weird to say that. But if you're the color guy, you're supposed to like add entertainment here, and the best way to do that is to talk about days from your playing days.
Hmm.
But anyway, the Knicks. What do they have coming up, Jay?
So
They got some rest actually coming up. They got a couple days off.
yeah, so they got Golden State on Saturday. Then they got home against Miami, and then on the road against the Spurs and Hornets.
Okay. So Spurs and Hornets should be locks. They should not lose those games.
They
Um,
shouldn't lose the Miami game either.
no, Miami's not very good, and Golden State they could use a little bit of revenge there.
Yeah,
They should go 4-0 or close to it. By the way, Bill Simmons did his. I'm a big fan of Bill Simmons. He did his draft, the worst contracts in the NBA, and they gave a nod to this contract, but they didn't think it was so bad. Just speaking of Charlotte, would you want to pay LaMelo Ball $40 million a year for the next 5 years?
hell no.
LaMelo Ball is super inefficient, never on the court. I would never in a million years. I know he's super talented. but he's not. I don't know how he wouldn't be like one of your top 5 worst contracts in the NBA.
Yeah, it's one of those that's going to age very poorly. I mean, it's not like he's. It's not that he's just inefficient. He's also not healthy.
He's not healthy and he's inefficient. I just don't know where you're getting from. I get he's really talented, and also he keeps playing and Charlotte keeps losing. So he's not adding to winning.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought on his I thought that was one of the contracts they mentioned that was ranked a little too not given enough. They did not talk about enough about how much that contract sucks.
Yeah. It was,
So
it was more like a side note. It should have been like.
They ripped OG's contract later in the show. Like it wasn't like a high ranking bad contract. I don't think OG's contract's that bad.
TBD for me.
I think if they paid him $30 million a year, people would be perfectly happy. I think 40 million people are a little bit
Yeah.
like, hey, it's a little high.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, let's wrap things up, Jay, because I gotta run. Anything else you want to add?
NYKnicksPodcast at gmail.com. We're NY Knicks Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon. There is a Kickstarter for a game I made that is, it's got 6 days left. So the link is in the show notes, so you can check that out. And yeah, I know you got to go. So we will be back next week and hopefully talking about a new winning streak.
Yes. We do have a winning streak currently, but I want more winning streaks. Yes. Okay.
All right. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. And by the way, if any lucky fan out there can give $3,000 to Jay's game, it would really help Jay be happy.
My God, another guy just went down.
Who's injured now?
Williams. Oh, that doesn't narrow it down at all, does it? Brandon Williams. You know why? Because he's on the Mavericks. It's like the 5th string guard.
Holy shit! Really?
Yes.
Holy shit! They really. I mean, like, they need an exorcism.
I mean,
Fire Nico Harris and do an exorcism. That's the only thing that would help here.
I mean, it's not a major. It's hamstring tightness, but
they've had so many injuries though.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
yeah.
Okay, I gotta run.
All right.